I want to get into Fukushima because on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, we have links to mainstream news articles today where Fukushima is still melting down. 5 of the 6 giant reactors have totally exploded and melted down. And in the last few weeks, they admit that 3 days into Fukushima, happened on a Friday, by Monday, they knew that 3 of the reactors, later it was all 5 of the 6, had exploded. I knew on that Monday morning when I watched the reactor explode that it was a complete and total meltdown and a meltdown explosion. And then I interviewed top nuclear physicists who'd been in Japan and who had gotten samples. Of course, Western governments all knew what the mushroom cloud meant, but it showed that fission had taken place, that a Chernobyl-type explosion, much bigger than Chernobyl, had taken place. That was reactor 3 with uranium and super deadly plutonium. And it turned out that they had 500,000 spent fuel rods. Well, it was a total of 614,000. But on that particular reactor, the majority of them, 500,000+, were stored on the roof and in holding tanks and were spewed into the air. Now, a couple months into this, how did the EPA respond? And you can go to the articles on our sites and link through the EPA. They came out and said, we're going to raise radioactive isotopes in the dozens of types that are in the air blowing across the Pacific onto the U.S. We're going to raise the isotopes levels. That's just one of many explosions. We're going to raise it from the levels that we say were safe to 1,000 times what they previously were, with some isotopes to 25,000 with others, and some isotopes 100,000 times what they previously said was safe. And it ran the gamut from 1,000 times, 3,000 times, to 100,000 times with actual links to the EPA. And the EPA came out and said, hey, we're going to have a public comment period. We're still going to do what we want, kind of like the Super Congress controls the power of the purse now, not the General Congress. And if Congress doesn't vote the way they want, the Super Congress just does it anyways. It's the same thing with the EPA. Oh, there's a quiet comment period where you can email us. We're going to raise the level of radiation 1,000 to 100,000 times what's safe, but we'll take your comment. And, of course, the vast majority of comments by scientists and others where this is a horrible idea, radiation's very bad for you, and they just said, we don't care. And they did raise it a few months ago after a month-long comment period. Now, the Prime Minister of Japan's had to resign over this. Most of the other ministers have. They've got radiation sickness. People are dying. They tried to keep it quiet. But I've even been in hotel rooms and watched Japanese TV in English on it where they are now admitting it. I was out in L.A. about a month ago and was shocked to see them admitting what we were getting from reporters months before. So it's now come out. But the only place it hasn't come out is here in the U.S. A month into this, they were having levels 25, 30, 40, 50, depending on what state, as far away as Vermont, on the other side, of North America from Japan, over across the Pacific, in milk, in produce. When they had Chernobyl in 1986, for 6 months all over Europe where the plume hit, from northern to western to eastern to southern, they brought food in from other continents, frozen. They brought frozen powdered milk in. No one was allowed to eat the cows. No one was allowed to eat the milk where it aggregates and builds up, bioaccumulates is the proper term. No one was allowed to eat it or touch it. And they estimate, the UN does, over 1 million deaths from cancer. Here, the Japanese got caught just mislabeling stuff as foreign to let folks eat it, and turned out it was very radioactive. Then, expanding on that, I just can't believe this is happening. It comes into the United States, and they just raise the level and say it's safe. The elite have gone crazy. They're on such power trips, they're fiddling while Rome burns like Nero. They think they're invincible. All right, let's go ahead and get into some other important news dealing with brainwashing.